Hello and welcome to the 7th video in this tutorial series on how to make a Planet Defense game. In this tutorial we will be creating a user interface and adding in-game money and player health to our game. I'm going to be moving fairly quickly as there's a lot to cover in this episode and I want to get it all finished, but I'm going to revise everything that we've done at the end of the episode. So with that, let's get started. Open the PlayState class here in your project. And up the top where we have these variables, let's create a couple more. So the first variables we will be creating are the visuals on our screen, the user interface elements. These are the things that will, like the text fields and the button that the player sees on their screen. So the first one that we will make is called money text, and this is of a type flex text. Now make sure that's imported here, so import flixel.text.flextext, and that's just a user interface field that will show the money to the player, how much money they have. Now let's do that again to show how much health they have. So we can just call this health text, and again this is of a type flex text. Now the third user interface item that we will add to our screen is a button that can place a turret. So let's just call that turret button. Now in our game there will be two options to place a button. There will be the shift button on the keyboard, which we have already added, and there's also going to be the user interface button, which is actual text on the screen that the player can click with their mouse. So to add that to the screen, this will be of the type flex button. Now you probably have to import that. So just type import flixel.ui for user interface .flex button. Import. Alright, now let's initialize these. Actually, before we do that, let's create a couple more variables, and these will be the actual data variables. So by data, I mean the raw number. So rather than a whole text field, it will be just a single number. So the first one will be their lives, and this will be of a type integer, so int. And let's set that off to be 3. So we'll start at 3 lives. Then for the money, we will do the same thing. So their money, and we start off, this is of a type int, and we start off with a 0 value because you start off with no money. Now the third variable we will be creating is a bit of a weird one. It's going to be called turret cost. Now basically this will store how much money the player has to have in order to buy a turret, because we're going to make it so that the player earns 5 money for every enemy they destroy. So that's a new turret for the first 3 enemies they destroy. Now that we've made these new variables here, we have to initialize these user interface text fields and button in our create method. So we're just going to put it maybe here after where we add the player to the screen. Now this has to be one of the final things you have in your create method. So here I'm just going to place a comment, and I'm just going to say UI elements. Now let's start off with the money text. So money text equals new flex text, as we've done in the past. So we're getting our money text variable and we're initializing it. Now for the X and Y position, I'm just going to set it to be the top left hand corner with 0, 0. For the width of the field, the text field, I'm just going to say flexg.width, so make it the width of the whole screen. And now it wants an initial text value to put in the field. So I'm just going to say $0, so $0. Now let's format this text field. So we can say money text dot set format. Now the first variable it wants is a font. Now I'm just going to leave this at the default pixelated font that Hexflexel provides, but you could put an asset path to your own font there. For the font size, I'm just going to say 16. You could say 8 if you wanted it to be smaller. Now for the color, I'm going to say flex color dot golden rod. Now that's just a golden color for the money. Now you might need to import flex color. Yeah, so to do that, just go import flexel.util .flex color, just like that, and you can choose any of the colors there. As you can see, there's quite a few. Now let's make it so that this text field doesn't move when our camera moves, because our camera's following the player, and so because our player's moving around, so is the camera. Now to make sure that the money text stays locked on to be the top left hand side of our camera, we can't have it moving about. So to set that to be non-moving when the camera moves, just say money text dot set scroll factor dot set, and we're not going to give any variables, which just freezes it on the screen. Now let's add this to the screen by add money text. Now we're going to create the turret button. So we can say turret button equals new flex button. Now make sure that this is imported, which is what we did before with import flexel.ui.flexButton. Now this takes an x and y argument, so we're just going to set this to be 0, 0, which is the top left hand side temporarily, because later we will set this to be in the middle of the screen with a separate method call. The next argument that it takes is the text that it should have inside it. So here I'm just going to say by turret. So that's the text that will appear inside our Hexflexel button. And then now it wants a function that it should call when the button is clicked. So I'm just going to say here function, and in this function I am going to put the code that creates a turret. Now as you might be able to remember, we already create a turret when we press shift with this line of code here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut that line of code and create a new function, and this will be a function called create turret, and in this function we create that turret there with the player's position. Now I can just say create turret. Yeah, now instead of creating a function and then just saying create turret inside the function, we can actually just give it the function it should call, which is create turret. Now we don't need to put opening and closing brackets here because it's going to call that function, not us. So make sure you just have create turret. Now that we've done that, we want to center it on the screen. So to do that, we can just import a helper class. So just via import flexel.util.flexSpriteUtil. FlexSpriteUtil contains some handy methods that can be used to do certain things to sprites and buttons. So now we can just say FlexSpriteUtil.ScreenCenter, and then it wants the object that it should center, so I'm just going to say turret button, and it wants to know if it should center it on the x-axis, so yes. because we want it to be here. Now on the y-axis, that would put it on the very center of the screen, and we don't want that, so just say false to that. And now we have to make it so that it doesn't move with the camera. So just put tow it button dot scroll factor dot set and add it to the screen. Now we have to create the health text. So just say health text equals new flex text. Now 0, 0 again, the top left hand side. Now for the field width, this is important. We want flexg.width because we want to put it here. If we have a text field that is less than the full width of the screen and we set it to be the right of the screen, right alignment, then it won't appear at the very right of the screen. And then for the text, I'm just going to say 3/3 as a fraction to say full health. And that should be enough for that. Now let's make it so that we have some formatting. So health text dot set format, and then null as the font because we don't want to change the font. 16 as the font size. Now I'm just going to set the color to be a color called coral, but you could set it to be goldenrod if you wanted both UI elements to have the same color. And for the alignment, we want to say right. Now we want to make sure that it doesn't move with the camera, so health text dot scroll factor dot set, and then add health text to the display. Now if you run your application, it doesn't know what health is on line 68, so let's fix that. On 68, we just need to say health text equals new flex text. Alright, here we go. So we've got $0, a buy tow it button, and 3/3. So now if you click the buy tow it button, it should place a tow it just like if you press shift. Oh no, shift's not working because we cut that out. So let's quickly fix that because we still want to enable shift for placing a tow it. So here we can just say place tow it. Just like that. Oh no, it's called create tow it. My mistake. Now let's make it so that the text fields actually show what they're meant to show, because at the moment that text is static. If we change these variables here, the data variables lives, money and tow it cost, that will not actually update the text fields. So in our update method, maybe just at the end here, just say health text dot text, so the string equals lives, so that data variable lives we had, plus, and then the string /3, because we start with a total of 3 lives. Well, now we will do the money text. So money text dot text equals $symbol plus money. So combine those together. And now we want to do something else, and we just want to say tow it button dot visible. So that's a boolean, so true false, for whether or not the tow it button should be visible. Now I only want to show the tow it button if we have enough money to buy a tow it. So here I'm just going to say if money, we don't actually need to put if, it knows what we're talking about here. If money is equal to or larger than the cost of a tow it, so tow it cost, so if this is true, then the tow it will be visible. So now that we've got that, we actually need to make these data variables work. So let's make the lives lives variable go down when the enemy touches the planet. Now you might know that in our enemy class, we know when it hits the planet because we destroy it. Now it's all good our enemy class knowing when it touches the planet, but we need our playstate to know that. So to make the playstate know when our enemy touches the ground, we need to pass from the playstate a function that should be called in the playstate when our turret touches the ground. So I'm going to go over this fairly quickly, but you might have to watch it a few times to fully understand what I'm doing. So the first thing we need to do is go to our enemy class, create a new variable, and this will be a reference to a function. So we're just going to call it onTouchGround. So this is the function that should be called when this enemy touches the ground. And to store a reference to a function, we just need to type void because it has no arguments and it returns nothing, so void. You don't really need to fully understand the void arrow void thing, you just need to know that it needs to be void arrow void. Now we need to add an extra argument, and this should be telling the enemy to store a reference to which function that it should call when the enemy touches the ground. So let's just call that onTouchMethod. Now in our arguments we can just say onTouchGround. So this variable we have here is equal to onTouchMethod, which is our argument. Now down here, when it knows that it's touched the ground and it destroys itself, we can say onTouchGround. So basically, with brackets. So this is just like a normal function call, but we're passing in the function that it should call, which is external to the enemy class. I may in the future create a separate episode explaining how that worked, but if you can work out that void arrow void is a reference to a function, then you should be right. Now when we create the enemy, we need to have a function that it should call. So here we can just write a function in here. Function, actually I'm just going to say onTouchGround, which passes it a function we have here, and then I'm just going to say onTouchGround, function onTouchGround. It accepts no arguments and it returns nothing, and all it does inside this method is it decreases the amount of lives in the lives variable. So lives minus minus. Now we can say if lives is equal, so when you say is equal, you have to have two equals. So if lives is exactly the same as 0, then flexg.resetGame. It'll just reset our game. And that should be good. So now if we run our application, hopefully it'll work. Unexpected equals larger than, so on line 119, here, it's not knowing what we're talking about. So I think what we have to do here is have the larger than before the equals. Now let's see if it works. Right, so as you can see, the button is now invisible because we don't have enough money. Now if we destroy some enemies, it will still not give us the money that we need to show that button. So now we need to make it so that we increase the money when we destroy an enemy. So here, when the enemy collides with the bullet, we can say money plus equals, so increase money by 5. So we earn 5 money for destroying the enemy. Now if we play our game, if we shoot an enemy, if I can find one, as you can see our money's gone up because we've destroyed one. So as you can see, if we shoot this, we've got $15, so we can buy a turret, and that places a turret down, which will shoot. Now as you can see, it's not reducing the amount of money we have, so we can continuously place turrets. We need to reduce it by the amount it cost. So now when we place a turret, let's just say if, because we can also press shift even if we don't have enough money. So we have to say if money is larger or equal to turret cost, so the amount it costs to buy a turret, then we can place the turret down just as we normally do, but we can also subtract the amount of money we have. So money is equal to the current money minus turret cost, just like that. Now something I want in this game is I want it to be increasingly difficult to buy turrets, because otherwise if turrets are always $15 and we're killing lots and lots of enemies with our turrets, then it will be way too easy to purchase turrets. We need to make it increasingly difficult. So let's just say turret cost at the very end of this if statement here, turret cost plus equals, so what the current turret cost, the turret cost is, so turret cost is, so increase the amount it costs to buy a turret by say 5. So we're saying we start off and we have to destroy 3 turrets to buy one, then we have to destroy 4 to buy the next one, and then we have to destroy 5 because we get 5 money for every enemy destroyed. Now if we run our game, you should see that we've got, we can't press shift to place turrets because we don't have enough money. So let's destroy some now. Now we have 15, we can place one. And now we can't place one because we don't have enough. Now we've got 10, 15, but we still can't place one. And if we destroy another one, then we can, because the price had increased to 20. Now we'd have to have $25 to buy one. Now let's deliberately let some enemies destroy our planet. And it seems like our lives aren't going down. And to fix that, I think the problem was actually just that I hadn't saved the enemy file, which was calling this function, the onTouchGround function. Now if we run it, hopefully when the enemy touches the planet, we should see that our health goes down, and when it reaches 0, it will reset our game. So there it goes down to 2. That one up there makes it go down to 1, and this one will make it go down to 0, and that reset the game. So I think that will be the end of this episode. Now I know this has been a longer episode, so it was quite a pain to produce. I had to re-record it a couple of times. However, I've got the whole tutorial and all of the code that we've written, as well as being on GitHub in this Word file here. And I'm just going to put this, a link to this in the description of this video, so you can read through it at your own pace. And I'm going to be on Twitter as per usual with @5mixer. So if you need any help whatsoever, just mention me there and I'll try and help you out. I'm more than happy to. So I hope that you've been able to follow along to this video, and in the next video we will be doing more interesting things with like a lose screen and maybe even a menu. We'll see. Thanks for watching.